Several big stories in Nigeria as of today. Is Friday, by the way, the 17th day in the month of March. Some of those big stories are the two off-cycle elections scheduled for Edo and Ondo states. Of course, in the case of Edo, it's being scheduled for September 21, 2024, and 2 months down the line, it's going to be Ondo states taking its turn in terms of these two off-cycle electoral exercises. Questions are being asked as to what will make, in the case of Edo in particular, the 2020 election different from the one that is right in front of us. Like we established yesterday, of course, the gladiators themselves, the political parties and their candidates are already free to campaign. Campaigns have started, consultation, interaction, engagements, and what have you have started already. As a matter of fact, Inec is now saying that in excess of 2 million PVCs will be collected for both states' elections. As of today, Inec in Edo State has also announced that more than 370,000, about 373,030 uncollected PVCs will be up for collection starting from May 27th. That is just going to be 2 Wednesdays from today. Inec has taken the most part of this week to engage with critical stakeholders, civil society leaders, media, executives, and all of those who call the shot within the media space, political parties, their candidates, and everyone who brings some value to the table as far as our electoral process is concerned, including security outfits, just to mention a handful of them. But the question is, what exactly is different with regards to this preparation? Is it just the razzmatazz around it, or is INEC trying to send a strong message to not just those who are throwing their hearts in the ring, but Nigerians and indeed the entire world to say, look, we have never been more prepared for an election as we are for these two exercises for September and November 2024. And we are Mofwebe, as always. It's a delight to welcome you to Big Talk on Global Television here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. Tonight, my guest is James Ugochukwu. He's an election expert and a public affairs commentator. Thank you, James, for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'm just going to begin with, you are on the front lines when it comes to civil society engagement and all of that, and you happen to have also attended the session with the INEC chairman and the rest of the commission's team in the course of this week. Talk to me about what your sense is with regards to the preparation or otherwise of INEC for this exercise.
Well, the game is on already, and of course, as you rightly said, you go to those states, for instance, now, all the politicking and
has started.
Has started already, typical, of Nigerian political system. And of course, INEC on its own part are already preparing towards the election, of which the first instance of what they need to do is holding a consultation with different stakeholders, started with the political parties and of course, the issue with the political parties is let them prepare for the election proper, apart from politicking. Preparing for the election now is that it's important for the political party to ensure that they get their political party agents that will be manning the polling unit on election days to be ready for the election. And of course, what we used to have is that the political party themselves have demonstrated that they are not very, very keen about protecting their mandates because their eyes and ears during the election is usually the political party agent. And more often you see INEC giving them a period of time to send their party delegates, party agents, details so that they can print their cards for them. And what you normally have is you see them delaying to the last days before they can send these party agents information and all that. And of course, during the last meeting here, the INEC told them that they are giving them till May 20th for them to upload the details of their party agents to the portal. Because by 6 p.m. on May 20, the portal will be shut down. Those that have not submitted the name of their party agents will not be allowed to do it after that. So those are the signs, the warning message to political party. And of course, other issue with the political party is that of the way and manner they go about their campaign and all that. Of course, we go about inciting different people against each other. It's very typical. Even at state level, they have a way of identifying which group is the other one. And of course, they tend to incite people instead of visiting the issue. Instead of a campaign-based, issue-based campaign, they go about inciting people, diverting attention to ethno-religious sentiment. And on the part of civil society, the engagement is, of course, for us to, make recommendation on how we can see a better election than what they used to have before. Of course, you know that civil society play a critical role in observing elections, and of course, noting what went wrong and what went right, and advising INEC accordingly to ensure that we have a better election. And of course, that of civil society now, we are going to work with INEC to ensure that we carry out what do you call it now, orientation towards the whole election, from the continuous voter registration to mobilizing citizens in voter and civic education to ensure that on election day they will be able to turn out. Of course, on the part of security, that one also is to ensure that we have a safer election than what we used to have before. We all saw what happened during the 2023 election, where a lot of people were maimed and they sustained injury just because they wanted to go and vote. And of course, this is something that the security should not allow to repeat itself now. People are coming to elect their leaders, and they should be able to do it peacefully and without any harm, and ensure that they are protected from any people that want to foment trouble. And of course, talking of fomenting troubles, the job of the security is to ensure that they use the information and, of course, statistics that civil society will be churning out to know where the hotspots are and ensure that these people are apprehended and stopped from perpetrating violence. Of course, so the media to ensure that they have an unbiased reportage. I have a situation where some media houses, they have some political leanings or subtle type, and it tends to, throw in fake information there that can cause a lot of damages. So I think that's what the role of the media should be, and of course, to work with INEC to ensure that they report the right thing before the election will take a different turn.
We understand, of course, we have the ground of the Constitution of the country, 1999 as amended, which has become another subject of controversy again in recent times. But then we also have the extant laws. The Electoral Act, for example, of 2022 is also there. How much of an acid test will the Edo and Ondo elections be for these laws?
Well, the Electoral Act 2022 was the premise of which the 2023 election was conducted.
Right.
So part of what we saw there is, or the major changes there is that of the transmission of results by INEC, and of course of which during the presidential election and the National Assembly election we had these popular glitches, cliche that happened, technical glitches and all that. So we are hoping that this time around they are going to make a lot of corrections from that, ensuring that this time around we are going to have a glitch-free transmission of results. And of course, talking about other aspects of the Electoral Act, we have several things that were not adhered to, several clauses in the Electoral Act that were not adhered to. For instance, the issue pertaining the conduct of political parties and politicians during campaign, that was completely ignored during the election because it is in section 61, section 192 and all that. There is a criminal offense of inciting electorate against each other, of which during the 2023 election, that happened a lot. A lot of people were incited against each other. Some people were even prevented from voting. Some people that even came to vote were even harmed, they sustained bodily injuries, some were even killed. And up till now, we have not seen where anyone has been seriously, prosecuted for that. So I'm hoping that we'll be watching out for Edo and the Ondo election that is violence-free or violence. The politician will stick to the issues instead of going about inciting citizens against each other.
Now, INEC Chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu himself, a man who has some sizable experience under his belt when it comes to conducting elections, whether the general election or off-cycle elections, is advising politicians, but in this particular case, the message is clear. He says, look, nobody should use the power of incumbency against their opponents in this case. Of course, Obaseki is not running for a third term. Obviously, the constitution does not provide for that. However, he has interest in the election. He's a PDP chief. I mean, he's the leader of the PDP in Edo State, for example. His candidate is in the race. If you go to Ondo State, the current governor is running for office. So these are people with incumbency leverage in their hands. Is that the much the INEC chairman should be doing, playing some sort of advisory role? What happens to fully implementing the laws, whether the ground norm or the extant laws, as against just advising? Is anybody even listening to that advice?
Well, if you check the Electoral Act very well, you discover that INEC is incapacitated in this stead you are talking about. INEC is not a law enforcing or enforcement
entity
organization as it is. It's not as if I'm holding brief for them. Because when you look at the Electoral Act, when the offenses were mentioned and when the penalties are stipulated, the enforcing agency is missing. Nobody said that it's INEC duty to...
So that calls for a review.
Exactly. So nobody said that these are the people that are supposed to
enforce
it. So we assume or we expect the law enforcement agency, which is the
police primarily.
Police and of course the other what do you call it now? The DSS, because we have an interagency consultative committee on election security, excuse me, headed by the National Security Advisor as a chairman, and of course the INEC chairman as a co-chair. Now, by the time you have DSS, you have the police and other people, it's expected that if there is this kind of infraction, they should be able to set in and of course ensure that they apprehend these people and, handle them according to the law. Excuse me. Even if you have some people using power of incumbency, of course, incumbency is a termed is a timeline. You understand? It's a timeline in the sense that Obaseki will not continue to remain in power. Ayeti Dati is not going to remain in power. So after they are out of power, if they commit any infraction, when the immunity is no longer on them, they can be, apprehended and prosecuted, just the way they are doing to Yahya Bello now. So the people to carry out that tax, for me, that tax is saddled on the security organization, which NSA is controlling. So the NSA and the rest of them should be able to, up their game this time around and issue all this warning. There's nothing INEC can do about it except the advisory role that they are playing now, asking them that you should avoid this. The other people that can even take some little action is the civil society, which is prompting or pushing the government to, advocating for the government to take care of this issue. So the whole thing, if you look at it very well, lies squarely on the shoulder of the National Security Advisors or the security organization. Because the way it is now, we have seen the power of incumbency being, used in the negative ways during the election. During the last off-cycle election, we saw the way Kogi State, Imo State, this particular state, especially.
There was Imo, there was Bayelsa, there was Kogi.
But these two states, Kogi and Imo, they were very, very prominently harsh on the opposition then. The situation, they don't even allow them to put up billboard, or if they want to put out the billboard, they charge them so crazy amount that they will opt for another option. Some of these states then, Owerri and Lokoja, by the time you get there, you can hardly see the posters of any opposition candidate and all that. So these are the things that you see that we may likely experience on the build-up to this two election in Edo and, of course, Ondo State.
I don't know whether we're having this conversation at all, or maybe we're not having it intensively enough. The issue of election spending, campaign funding. We understand there's supposed to be some threshold, for example. How come we're not, it appears we're paying a blind eye to it?
Well, it boils down to what I've said before. Who enforces the law? We have a very beautiful...
Who determines who spends what?
Exactly. Who determines who spends what? Who tracks even the election expenses? You see, so these are the things that we are, where we're having a very big problem in our electoral system. Of course, we all know that most of these political parties, they charge humongous amount for nomination fee. So by the time you take that nomination fee out, by the time you start looking at all that money they use for primaries, and of course the other fund they will use in a campaign and all that, you see that it goes far, far, far or way beyond the stipulated amount. Then if you factor in inflation now, can we still say that somebody can run for election with 200 million or something? Of course, the answer is no. Prices of several things have gone up and all that. So that clause, if it needs to be implemented, we should be looking at, okay, having maybe unbundling INEC to have a particular commission or agency that will be tracking campaign expenses, an independent body that is answerable to nobody, are able to track campaign expenses from the presidency to even the
local government
and councillorship
elections.
If they can do all that one, they can now come up and know that, okay, if somebody spends this much, then above this threshold, the person should be, penalized or should be arrested or prosecuted, as the case may be. In other part of the world, it's been done. You can't spend more than a certain threshold. So these are something we can do. But to do it now, you should be looking at which government agency will do it.
Will be responsible for that.
INEC is already overburdened. I don't think they'll be able to add that to the existing
the burden that they already carry.
Exactly.
I'm going to talk to you about a few more things, but we're taking a quick break now. When we return after this short break, it will be time to talk some more about the election in Edo and on those states. To stay with us. So I was going to ask you about, of course, Nigerian political system, the electoral process. They've all evolved over time. I mean, these 25 years of experimenting with democracy and the processes that come with it. But then we keep hearing, I mean, at the point there was the smart card reader and all of that. It will appear events have overtaken all of that. So now we're talking about server. There's a server. No, there's no server. No, there's a server. No, there's no server. Does it look like we're ready to go fully electronic, or if you like, digital with our electoral process?
Well, the thing is, you're already using electronic system. Yes, and the question is if we are going to go fully. Of course, the thing is we are definitely going to go fully with time because we're already on the roadmap to that. Just as you rightly said before, pre-2011, what we use is analog system, and of course we know what that, churn out. It happens to be that we have a system where people can, register several times,
right?
And vote several polling units on election day and all that. But by the time we started introducing technology, it started becoming harder and harder for people to do that. For instance, now we have the permanent voters card that were issued, I think, 2015 for the first time. Yeah, 2015, because 2011 was done with the paper card.
Right.
From 2015, a permanent voters card was introduced, and it made it difficult for people to,
compromise the system.
Compromise the system. Then the smart card reader then was a better improvement to what we used to have in 2011. And of course, by now that they've introduced the machine now, that particular machine is the same thing, is the BVAS, is the IREV, is the one that using data capture. It's just a machine that you can carry and put in your pockets, and has a better battery life than the rest. So if we have all these things, of course, what we should be looking at is having, of course, the legislation have already even given INEC the power to determine the electronic ways they use in election administration. So if INEC can come up with an electronic voting machine tomorrow, the law has already given them the permission to do that. Of course, during the build-up to the 2023 election, the issue of whether they should transmit results electronically or not was a strong debate in the National Assembly, of which at the end of the day, they gave them the thumbs up that, okay, they should go ahead and use the IREV, which we saw how it happened. if not for the presidential election where we had glitches. I think IRF is a game changer, has been a game changer all this while, because for the very first time, you can see the result being transmitted online, and you as a citizen can log on, register and log on, and of course track the polling unit of your interest. And not like before that, they will just give you information. So the only thing that we need to do now is to back up the machine integrity with human integrity, because we still have that human integrity lacking in us as Nigerians, and that is what we need to do. So for us to go electronics is not a very big challenge. One particular local government election, I think 2019 or 2020, in Kaduna State, they used complete electronic voting system. That is Governor El-Rufai used it in a local government election, of which even he himself didn't even use the result, which brings the issue of human integrity into it, because electronic voting will give you the result the way it is.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Garbage in, garbage out. So are you going to accept it or not? That's where your human integrity question comes to play. So now, that technology is already there. That technology is already there. Are we going to deploy it? It's left for us to decide in the long run, but it's possible. And of course, whether I would like it or not, is going to tend towards that direction with time, because as newer Inec chairmen are coming, as newer generation are coming, they want to do something faster. They want to know if they can do it with higher integrity than before. Of course, that's where the electronic voting system is going to come. When it's going to come, we don't know, but it's definitely going to come.
So it's not about if, it's about when.
Yes, when, exactly.
As of today, INEC says it has already, it is continuing with its voter registration exercise on the national scale. But in particular in Edo State, the INEC State leadership there has announced that come 27th of May, they will begin the collection of or distribution of PVCs. When you look at all of these put together, it will appear that the interest of the average Nigerian in electoral issues, in elections generally, is still not off the ground. How much of voter apathy are we dealing with?
Well, the anti-climax of 2023 election has
so some people have not recovered.
Yes, so it has given room to depression. You know, a lot of people are still having hangover from 2023 general election and IRF glitches, of which is going to actually going to feature prominently in the forthcoming election. A lot of people are going to actually lose their, how do I put it now, their confidence in the system. So we are hoping that before the build-up to the election, before the election day, there will be serious voter and civic education that will encourage people to not to, you know, feel that way or, you know, get, how do I put it now, disappointed about the whole exercise. Another issue that will play prominently, or that will make people to develop that pathetic attitude, is security. A lot of people saw what happened in 2023 election. You wanted to go and vote, and the next thing you see is that you didn't come back home alive, or come back with injury. Question they were asking yourself is that these politicians that some of them have not even fulfilled their campaign promises, are they worth dying for? You understand that kind of question? So that insecurity, election insecurity, may likely result to voters' apathy or citizens' apathy. So these are the two issues that are going to actually be a concern as we are moving towards this election. So to cap it up now, the dividend of even going into this leadership recruitment process, we've seen where people are elected at the end of the day. 4 years, 8 years down the line, all they've been doing is just making more campaigns, even when they are in the office. At the end of the day, they ended up not doing anything. Or if they are giving you their scorecard, what you are hearing is some virtual figure that if you go about, you cannot even pinpoint your finger on what they are talking about. And at the end of the day, you say, what is this? Why should I even go and vote for these people? They don't even deliver anything. So we need a lot of rejigging of our electoral process at different levels to ensure that citizens will have confidence in going into the polls.
Talking about rejigging our electoral system, they say just charity begins at home. Let's talk about the internal mechanism of INEC. Since 1999, there have been several questions about the integrity of INEC itself being the umpire, the integrity of its staff, in particular those who are on the field, for example. From what you know as someone who has followed elections over time, are you persuaded that INEC is doing enough in terms of ensuring that bad eggs in its food, as it were, eliminated, for want of better words?
Well, I think when we're talking about integrity issue and INEC, we're looking at, is it an INEC thing or a societal thing? Because some of the people that INEC engage during this election are actually not INEC staff.
The ad hoc staff.
They are ad hoc staff, and they are Nigerians. And some of these issues we are talking about of misdemeanor are not actually carried out by those INEC staff.
But they are supervised by full-fledged career INEC staff.
Now, I'm heading somewhere. Now, for instance, now, the EOs mans the polling unit. Now, during the election, they are the decider of whatever happened in the polling unit. I remember some of them are not INEC staff. Some of them are youth corps members. Some of them are students from university. Some of them are people from different ministry department and agencies. Now, when somebody doesn't have integrity and the person has been recruited to work there, it tends to undermine the process, and the buck will stop
with INEC
at the table of INEC. INEC on his own part now, during the 2023 election, I think some of their staff were prosecuted, you understand? Some of their staff were arrested or they were prosecuted based on the electoral malpractices they carried out. So now we're looking at the whole thing. I will keep on telling people that yes, INEC is an institution, and the kind of job they do, I'm not holding brief for them anyway. They have their own issues. But this is an institution that deals with a lot of stakeholders to carry out their mandate or their functions. For instance, they deal with this ad hoc staff, as I've said before. They deal with transport union. They deal with the security, of course, and they deal with other people. Now, out of these people can easily be compromised by other third forces. For instance, now, the transport union may decide to say, okay, on election day, I'm not taking materials to the polling unit. And as simple as that statement sounds, it has a tremendous effect on the election. So if they don't move materials, it will mess up the whole, what do you call it now, the election day activities. So should we be looking at INEC unbundling, or you're looking at unbundling the works of INEC? Can we start having INEC having their own logistic department entirely, logistic unit entirely, unbundle out of INEC, and their job is to be moving election material. Like in 1999 and 2003 and those elections, we used to have these mini trucks owned by INEC that move all this thing everywhere. You see, then the other one is the ad hoc staff. We should be looking at giving a serious punitive measure on any ad hoc staff that is found wanting during election. But what we normally have is that we have a system where election becomes an industry and it becomes a period that everybody wants to cash into the economy and all that. So a value orientation and character orientation is very important for us to ensure that the output of INEC and their delivery, will be improved based on what the kind of people we feed into it. Because as it were now, it's the same Nigerians that we are putting there, and when the whole thing happens, of course, INEC will take a majority of the blame. So INEC needs help in a way. Right. You understand? Of course, any of the staff that is found wanting, they should intensify effort to ensure that these people are punished in line with the Electoral Act.
One more question just before we're done. For Edo State, for example, it's 4 months until the election. For Ondo State, it's 6 months. From all you have gathered in the last few weeks, for example, what are some critical areas you think INEC must address within this time window?
Well, I think the number one critical area is to ensure that they attend to as many people as possible that want to participate in this election. For instance, now, no matter the level of the disenfranchisement or the way they view INEC and all that. There are still people that still believe that this is the only way to recruit their leaders. So of course INEC has started, we are going to start continuous voter registration from May 27 to I think 5th of June or so, just a period of 2 weeks. So, and this one is to capture those that have not registered and are ready to be part of it. So INEC should look into ensuring a glitch-free CVR, and of course collection of results and all that. INEC should ensure that the collection of results is seamless. They say they are going to take the CVR down to ward level, which is very commendable. So a lot of people will be able to go to a place closer to them and register. Same thing with Ondo State as well. So now the other issue is to improve on their logistics, because we are looking at 2 states that have difficult terrain, with Ondo having more of it. Places like a large Seldo and the like riverine areas. So INEC should start advanced preparation to ensure that during the election, where they should be able to deploy men and material into this difficult terrain on time. They should be able to liaise with the security agencies that have helicopters. Instead of moving this thing through the road and all that, why can't we move it through helicopters? Check where they can have a helipad for this materials to be landed on time, so that election will take place easily. In this era where we're having marine transport without Jakarta and all that, I don't want to be hearing that people get drowned and they got missing and all that, or they got attacked by militants. Same thing with places like Kwabaka, they have riverine.
Oriomo and all that.
Exactly, they have a riverine area, and all these things need to be factored in advance before that time. So logistics is very, very important for us to ensure that we have a better output during the election. Of course, INEC should, apart from the last off-cycle election, now that was a disaster, the way the thing would happen and everything, the collation and everything was still questionable till tomorrow. This is another acid test for INEC to get his act right and ensure that, yes, they liaise with every stakeholder to ensure that they have a hitch-free election and a more credible one at this time around.
James Ugochukwu, election expert and public affairs commentator, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
And that's a wrap on the discussion today. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I'm Uyi Agumofwebe. I'll see you again